Now, if we're asked to solve these problems using the law of cosines, we're missing the key piece that we're supposed to look for first in any law of sines problem. We don't have a pair of information. We don't have side A or angle B or angle C in the first one. We don't have any angles in the second one. So both of these are going to require a new type of way of solving them. And that's where the law of cosines comes in. First thing I'm going to do is give you the equations for law of cosines, and then we'll go ahead and talk about how to use them. So here are the three versions of the law of cosines. And what you'll see is they all follow the same format. A side squared equals the other two sides squareds added up minus 2 times those same two sides times the cosine of the angle. Notice there's only one angle in the formula, and the angle is always with the cosine. The other three are all sides. Now, whichever angle is here, that's the side that's on the outside part of the formula. So here we have b squared, we have angle B. Here we have c squared, we have angle C. And whatever two sides are here, that's the two that are being multiplied in here. You're going to determine which formula to use based off of which angle you are either given or being asked to solve for first. So for example, if we go back to this first problem here, and I gave the direction of solve for side A. That would actually be the first thing I would need to solve for anyway, because I've been given angle A. And because I've been given angle A, I'm going to use this top equation. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of angle A. So all I need to do to start is plug everything that I know into this equation. Please pause the video while you do this. So here I've started with my problem again, and I've written the equation that I plugged into, and I just showed what I'm going to plug into. This is actually the easier version of the equation because my side that I'm solving for is already here all by itself, and everything else is over here. What that actually means I get to do is take my calculator and type in all of this all at once exactly the way that it's written. So hit pause while you go ahead and do that, but stop there and check your. So when I type this all in, I get 46.9 and then some more of a decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and record that 46.9. But remember, this is what a squared is equal to, and I want what a is equal to. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and that means I'll now have a. And instead of rounding on my calculator, I'm going to hit second and square root, because square root's above x squared. But then second answer, so it plugs in 46.90373559 all in there instead of me rounding it. So I'll hit second square root, second answer, hit enter, and I get a is equal to 6.8. Well, now I have that pair of information that I need in order to use law of sines. Or I can go ahead and solve for the next piece in law of cosines. All I was really asked for in this problem was to solve for a, so we're going to call this problem finished for now. This was the second example of a problem that we couldn't use a law of sines because we didn't, again, have a pair of information. Take a minute to copy down the problem. And think about which angle's going to be the largest angle, A, B, or C. You don't really want to solve for all three of them and then just circle the one that's largest. That's a waste of time and a lot of extra work. So remember, this is where we come into that key piece of information, that your smallest angle is across from your smallest side and your largest angle is across from your largest side, which means if side A is 12, that's my largest side, which means my largest angle will be angle A. And as I said before, the angle that you are either given or solving determines which version of the equation you're going to use, which means that once again, I'm actually going to be using the same version. The a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of A. Be careful when you're writing the C next to cosine that you pay attention that there isn't a side C in there. Once again, the first thing I'm going to do is plug everything in. So go ahead and hit pause while you plug everything into the equation. Okay, this is the equation we should have. 12 squared equals 7 squared plus 9 squared minus 2 times 7 times 9 times the cosine of A. Now, this is the trickier version of the equation. What we're solving for is not by itself. It's over here. That means you need to be extremely careful about what you type into the calculator at once. You can type in 12 squared because it's the only thing on the left-hand side. You're going to get 144. You can type in 7 squared plus 9 squared because those are like terms. So I can do both of those at once, and I find out that 7 squared plus 9 squared is equal to 130. Now, I cannot at the same time as that 7 squared plus 9 squared type in this part here, this minus 2 times 7 times 9, because technically it's being multiplied by cosine A, which is not a like term with 7 squared plus 9 squared. I can, however, simplify these three by multiplying them in front of cosine. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 7 times 9, and I'm going to get negative 126 times the cosine of A. And once again, I need to be very careful that I do not combine these because 130 is by itself and negative 126 is with the cosine of angle A. So my goal is to get cosine A alone. The first thing I can move is the 130 by subtracting it. So I'm going to get 14 equals negative 126 cosine of A. And then because I'm multiplying the negative 126 times the cosine of A, I'm going to divide by the negative 126. And then that will give me what cosine A is equal to when I type that into my calculator. So I'll do 14 divided by negative 126, and I get negative 0.1 repeating. But remember, I'm solving for angle A. And so in order to solve for an angle, we always do the inverse of cosine. So I need to do second cosine, and then I want to plug in that whole answer. So second answer, and I'm going to get 96.4 degrees. Now in this particular problem, remember that I was asked to solve for the largest angle. Even if you're not, if you're given three sides, you should always start by solving for the largest angle, because then you're allowed to use the law of sines to solve for your missing pieces. Or you can continue to use the law of cosines to also solve for angle B and C, but you have to start with the largest angle if you're going to move to the law of sines. Now, I'm going to give you a problem that I'd like you to try on your own. So your problem is angle C equals 120 degrees, side A is 100, side B is 66. And this time I'm going to ask you to solve for all of the missing pieces. First, think about which equation of the three versions of law of cosines you need to start with. Go ahead and write that equation, hit pause, and before you move on, I'll give you the answer for that part. So I knew I was going to use the c squared version of the equation because I was given angle C. And remember, I wasn't given a pair of information. That's how I knew I was using law of cosines. You always use the equation based off of the angle that you're either given or solving for. Now remember, this is the easier version of the equation because my variable is already by itself, so I can just type in that entire right-hand side into my calculator, go ahead and continue all the way to angle C, and go ahead and then solve for angle A and angle B. Hit pause, and when you're ready, hit play again. So I went ahead and plugged in the right-hand side and got 20,956. I took the square root of both sides and I got 144.8 degrees. I then chose, because I had a pair of information, to use the law of sines. Also because I knew my largest angle and side, so law of sines is then safe to use. So I solved for angle A and I got 36.7, and then I didn't have any work to do for angle B because remember, once I know two of my angles, sorry, I shouldn't have written angle up there. I know my two angles are angle C is 120. This is not an angle, that was a mistake. And angle A is 36.7, which means I can add up 120 and 36.7 and subtract that from 180, and that's where I got the 23.3. The next thing you're going to do is open up the Sage and Scribe. The person in your partner who has the shortest hair should be the one opening it up. And remember, the sage talks through the problem, the scribe records and asks questions if needed. You swap the roles in the iPad after every problem. If there's a group of three, if there's an extra group of three in the room, somebody's going to move seats so you can partner up. But if there's only one group of three, that group of three can work together. Good luck.